Got open man. DJ Moore. End zone. Touchdown. Touchdown Bears.
I am Jeff Joniak.
Blitz is on. Down he goes. Brisker.
What was it like playing for Coach Ditka?
I don't want to answer any questions like that.
Pressure coming. He's in big trouble. Down he goes. Montez Sweat.
And etc.
Now, Bears Etc. brought to you by Chevy Drives Chicago, the official truck partner of your Chicago Bears.
There is a great feeling permeating Bears Nation. Spoke to some season ticket holders this week at Hallis Hall before practice about this 4-game winning streak the Bears are on, and they were super jacked, roaring about it. But then a few, Tom, don't say it so loud. I think they're still getting used to the idea and let nothing spoil the stew. With Super Bowl winning Bears guard Tom Thayer, I'm Jeff Joniak. We discussed today in episode 180 of the Bears Etc. podcast. And this episode of Bears Etc. brought to you by ChevyDriveChicago.com, the official truck of your Chicago Bears. Coming up, a conversation with Rod Woodson, who's a 4-year analyst on the radio side, like Tommy is on the Bears side, for the Baltimore Ravens, the Hall of Famer. And we'll also have some other surprises along the way here as we get you set for Bears and Ravens. A 1-5 Ravens team, Tom, as dangerous as any 1-5 team you're going to find ever. They're coming off the bye, fresh, rested. Team leaders are starting to voice. I mean, I know I read something. The team leader said, hey, no more ping pong tables. We're getting rid of the fun stuff. Get it out of here. I mean, anything to try and get back on track, but they've been so injured. Getting Lamar Jackson back and Roquan Smith back this week should make a difference for them.
Well, that's why, along with the excited people that want to talk about the 4-game winning streak, you also have people that are putting the finger to their lips and saying, shh, because what disappoints me about the perception of the Bears is the fact that they're 6.5-point underdogs, and there's a high percentage chance for Baltimore to win the game. This is a proving ground game. Even though you're a 1-5 football team, you're still getting consideration to win that division and possibly go to the playoffs. And they have to have a major turnaround, and they're coming off of a bye week. So, listen, I've loved the approach of Ben Johnson since we have a chance to meet the guy when he was hired here for the Chicago Bears. And so I think this is really an opportunity for all of us as Bear fans to see what type of performance they can have when they're up against the odds of, the week leading up to the game.
Yeah, and on the road, no less. Good news, Chicago United Airlines is getting brand new planes with all the bells and whistles, like Bluetooth connectivity, screens at every seat, and room for everyone's roller bag. United, proud to fly the Chicago Bears, and you too. So, one of the first things I think of when I think of the Ravens is what they do up front. And Nnamdi Madubuike lost for the season. That guy made a massive difference. Again, like we've discussed, Tom, you can close your eyes and know what a Steeler and a Raven looks like, defensively. And again, they got a bunch of them.
They do. They've always had a good creative defense. They've always been filled with the kind of athletes since John Harbaugh has been in place there that they go out and draft a specific style of player. If you go back and do a little research and look at their roster and look at some of the sizes of the guys up front, both offense and defense, then you look at the size of their linebackers, who aren't the biggest guys. And then you go back to the back end and you look at some of the guys like Kyle Hamilton and stuff. They're bigger than the linebackers in some respects in terms of height and everything. But it's about a template of a style of player that Baltimore has always gone after. And that's the type of challenge that you're up against, because they're in a division that they feel that they have to be as physical as the NFC North is.
Oh, yeah. I mean, all those teams are, even, and so are the NFC North. I think the AFC and NFC North kind of mirror each other.
Right. There's a lot of similarities between the two. There may be a little different type of athletic template to the NFC North than there is the Baltimore's division, but they still play the same brand of football.
And that includes running the football. You have a great deal of respect for Derrick Henry, as you should. And he finally got the football more regularly with success in their last meeting against the Rams, as he did in the opener against the Buffalo Bills. In between, not a whole bunch. We don't know exactly why that's the case, but he's still a problem for a Bears defense to make sure they don't let him get momentum and start going downhill. Because like any back, once they do, they use what their traits are, whether it be speed or power, and he's got both.
Right. He's had a couple of costly fumbles in the early part of this season, where usually he's not plagued as a fumbler. But when you get into double-digit years of service as a running back, they're always kind of monitoring the workload because they want you at your freshest if the playoffs get here. And I still think even though they're 1-5, they're still taking into account where they need Derrick Henry to be when the playoffs get here. But to me, he's probably been one of the most underutilized weapons in the playoffs the last 2 years by the Ravens. So if you're going to go out and you're going to save this guy all season, then you got to unload the fury once the playoffs get here. And they haven't done that. So I still have a tremendous amount of respect for him. He's got speed, he's got size, he's got willingness. However, if you remember a couple of years back when the Bears played the Tennessee Titans and he was in Tennessee, they gang tackled him on every single carry, and he really didn't have that big game that he can have. So I believe that Dennis Allen will devise a scheme that is that has that same group mentality to it than every single team that's had success against them.
Score big at your local Chevy dealer. The Chevy Silverado will take you through the season in style. Chevy Drive Chicago, official truck partner of the Chicago Bears. All right, let's dig into our conversation with Rod Woodson. What a career. Played for Pittsburgh, the 49ers, the Ravens on a Super Bowl team that allowed 165 combined points. This Ravens team has already passed that in 6 games, just for some comparative analysis. Finished with the Raiders, coached with Cincinnati, Oakland, Denver. He was a head coach in the XFL for a year, won Super Bowl 35 with the Ravens, Defensive Player of the Year in 93, a 6-time first-time All-Pro, consensus All-American in college, an All-Decade, All-Anniversary team, 11-time Pro Bowler, and a Hall of Famer. This is the radio analyst for the Baltimore Ravens, Rod Woodson. How have you enjoyed being an analyst for the Ravens?
Well, this year's been a little frustrating, but I mean, they're a fun organization, a great organization. Steve Bisciotti's a great owner from the top down. It's a first class place to work, and obviously, up to this year, it's been really fun to call because Lamar Jackson's been exciting, the offense has been exciting, the defense has kind of turned it around. This year, not so much.
Hey, Rod, before I get into the Ravens, I need to go in the Wayback Machine because I went to Notre Dame. We played Purdue all 4 years I was there. In my senior year, I got up the guts to go up and ask the band if I could hit the world's largest drum. They wouldn't let me. Have you ever hit the world's largest drum at Purdue?
No, it never even crossed my mind because I guess I've seen it so often. So it's like in my head, I was like, oh, there it is. It's a big old drum. It's not my job to hit the drum. It's my job to go out and play football. So I wasn't even thinking about it, to be honest.
Yeah, but as probably something that because we didn't have it and I just saw it throughout the history, I always wanted to hit that drum. But
most people that went to Notre Dame are kind of jealous of Purdue stuff.
You're right. I remember one time they wanted to bring it to Notre Dame, and Notre Dame said it wouldn't fit in the stadium, so they didn't let him bring him with it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, all right, now to the Rays. So you played corner, you played safety, you've been a coach, you got a football background, unlike a lot of others. Okay, now I'm asking you, if you were devising a scheme to slow or to go play against Lamar Jackson, would your defense start front to back or back to front?
Well, I think they do complement each other. But with Lamar itself, you have to start up front. And you have to, it was similar to when we played Barry Sanders. He was the only running back that we ever game planned. And the way we had to do that is like our edge rushers had to there's no speed rushing. So you couldn't get up the field. So you had to get up to where the quarterback was going to be in his pocket or the running back. And you had to kind of keep him in a saucer. So the saucers are kind of about that size, right? You don't want to be too high. You don't want to be too low because you don't want him to get out of the pocket. So you with Lamar, you got to keep him in. And one of the best teams that ever really do it since I've been watching them and calling their games has been the Pittsburgh Steelers. They've done a really good job of kind of like bottling him into the pocket where he doesn't get to use his feet as much as he wants to extend those plays. So I would say, to answer the question, it would be front end to back end.
I think of, you played with Pittsburgh Steelers, you played with all these great defensive football teams. When you think about what Lamar Jackson offers a team, what do you look to control on him? His pass, he's really got a good arm. He's a talented passer, but like you said, you have to have that kind of a contain rush to make sure that he doesn't get outside the pocket. So what do you first look at as a defensive player?
Yeah, I tell you what, Lamar, over the time frame that I've been calling the games, he's become a really good passer down the field. His throws down the field used to be flat, and it wouldn't allow his receivers enough time to adjust to the ball. And now he's putting more arc on it. And one of the best guys I've ever played against was Warren Moon, who had a deep, high ball, allowed his receivers to adjust to it and to find the ball in the air. He has become that guy. Obviously, his intermediate passing, he can throw those type of balls. He can throw sidearm. He can do all that stuff. But I think when you're going against Lamar and you're seeing how he's grown in throwing the football, I mean, he doesn't have a bunch of weaknesses, and he's still young. He's only in his 7th year. Right. I mean, this guy hasn't played. I mean, he's played a lot of football, but you would think he's like year 10, whatnot, but he's not. And for Lamar, been in the league for 7 years, he's one of those guys that's gotten better every single year at his position. And I think under Todd Monken, Todd has allowed him, or really kind of challenged him to learn the game. And the stuff that he likes, he can put into the game plan. And I think that's what we've seen the last several years. And that's one of the main reasons their offense has been so dynamic. And last year, it was just crazy talented, running the football, throwing the football. And all starts with Lamar, because when he's not there, when number 8 isn't behind the center, they don't look like the same offense.
4-12 without him in his career. So, yeah, that's significant. Rod Woodson, our guest. So you're talking quarterback on Lamar. Now, as you have your eyes on Caleb Williams, I keep calling these breadcrumbs. I see breadcrumbs to success. The running game's getting better. Caleb's getting better in situational football. Across the board, his quarterback rating's up over 100 and so many things. But there's still so much more. And I know Ben really wants what Lamar has, like 70% completion percentages on a lot of situational football. It takes time to get there, though, doesn't it? And I know Bears fans are only looking at this from a 22-game perspective of Caleb, but what's your thought?
Yeah, I mean, Caleb Williams is very talented. He's very Lamar-ish. And Todd Monken had to challenge Lamar to make him go to the next level. And I think all players, I was challenged by a guy named Rod Rust when Rod Rust came into the league, and he challenged me going into my 3rd year, to be better just as the athlete, to learn the game. And those coaches, the Ben Johnson of the world, they make the best player. They what Caleb Williams is. They're asking him every single day to be the best version of himself daily. And how do you do that? You learn, you grow, you make mistakes, but you allow the mistakes to be made as long as they're not repeat offenders. And you've seen that the last 4 weeks. They have played really good collective football across the board. Not so much the first 2 weeks, but the last 4 weeks is and I think if people are starting to watch him from the outside in, they're saying, oh yeah, we've seen that in college. We've been waiting for that here in the league. And we're starting to see that. And I think that's because Ben has challenged him to kind of grow. And the same thing is like Todd Monken challenged Lamar when he first came in.
Rod, you had 71 interceptions, if I'm not mistaken, in your great career, and 24 fumbles, along with 12 interceptions for touchdowns. Right now, because of what the Bears are doing, taking the ball away, leading the league, this town's in a frenzy. And some people say it's luck. Al Harris, the defensive back coach, former NFL player and an All-Pro himself, shakes his head. He says, no, it's a mindset. Where do you stand on that?
It is a mindset. It's a mindset, but you work on it daily. You work on it weekly. If you don't do that in practice every single day, you're not going to do it in a game. I don't care what the coach says, right? So if it's not emphasized in practice daily, and if you're not doing drills to look at that daily, then I don't care what you want on game day. It's not going to happen. So that's something that's emphasized. Obviously, it's emphasized. We know Al Harris. I mean, he did it quite a bit. And you look at even last week with Chicago, how they go about trying to get. They're not scared to put their foot in the ground and go get an interception. That's the first thing. Secondly, they're not scared to punch at the ball when they're in traffic. That's the second thing. So, you as a defender, I love seeing that stuff because it's being taught by the coaches and the players are taking ownership and saying, you know what, the more often we can get the ball and give the offense a short field, the likelihood they can score it makes it easier.
Hey, Rod, we were talking about the Bears defense. Your approach to watching a guy and broadcasting and seeing him practice, Derrick Henry. To me, I always thought that he was a really underutilized guy when it came to the playoffs the last couple of years for Baltimore. To me, he's one of the greatest running backs in the history of the NFL and one of the top running backs still at his position. So your philosophical thinking about the Bears or a defensive approach to Derrick Henry?
Don't let him get going. Stack the box, right? I mean, if you look at the blueprint, it's been for every team that's played Derrick Henry well. They're stacking the box, right? And they're bringing pressure. They're bringing that zero pressure. 6-man guys are coming. They're closing all the gaps. They're not giving them a lot of room to run and to get going. That's been the blueprint, and that blueprint kind of started with Cleveland this year. And even though Cleveland tried to do it last year, but last year was a different year. Everything was kind of working for the offense and the defense later in the year. But I think this year it's been stack the box, challenge the receivers, see if Lamar can get out of the pocket, bring 6-man pressure, and see if they have an answer for it, because it's been their bye week and we're trying to figure out, and Lamar has been hurt the last couple of weeks. So is he healthy? Is he not healthy? I mean, that would be my mindset going into it, that I would do the same thing that the other teams who had success, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Cleveland Browns, the teams that defensively made it really hard for their offense, I would do the exact same thing.
So that philosophical thinking about what you do up front defensively, does it also provide you enough pressure and not giving openings to Lamar downfield when you're trying to stop Derrick Henry? Or is it kind of a defensive philosophy up front and it's a 1-2 punch philosophy?
Yeah, I mean, it's really, for me, it would be until they show me they can beat it, I'm going to keep doing it, right? I'm going to bring it until they show me they can take those shots down the field. They can show me that they can open and they can win their one-on-one matchups on outside. The tight ends can win their one-on-one matchups. If the running backs are coming out of the backfield, they can win their one-on-one matchups. If they can't, I'm going to keep bringing it. And that's what we've seen with Kansas City. That's what we saw with Cleveland. They just kept stacking the box, and they said, we don't believe Lamar can do it consistently throughout the whole game. And if they can't do that the whole game, then that's where the advantage goes to the defense.
All right, I got to ask you a couple more questions here, but Kyle Hamilton playing in that big nickel against the Rams seemed like it make a big difference. Do you think he'll stay there?
Yes. And last year, if you go back after the bye week, they brought in Dean Pease, but they also moved Darius Washington into the lineup, and that kind of put Kyle down into the box so they can kind of move him around as a chess piece. Well, they did the same thing. You got Gilman that came in. They got to the three safety rotation again this 2 weeks ago when they played the Rams, and the defense looked better. They really did. They weren't giving up the big plays because, I mean, the Rams were carving up some defenses in the previous weeks, and they didn't do that this past or 2 weeks ago when they did play the Ravens. So you got to think that that's going to be the same. I would think that's going to be the same mindset going into it, because you want to use your best players in the best position to make plays. And he can rush the quarterback. He can cover guys. So I think we would see something very similar to that in my mind.
All right, lastly, you two were on the same field twice, according to my math. 1989, Rod Woodson was at Soldier Field, and 1992, when the Steelers were there, Tom, I think that was the Singletary final home game as a Chicago Bear. Do you guys both remember this matchup? Remember this game? Take us down the road. Take us back in time.
I don't remember the whole game, but I do remember Singletary retiring. That was going to be his last game. I do remember that.
You had 2 sacks.
I did.
Of Jim Harbaugh.
Oh, Jimmy. Now, you know what? It's so funny because Jimmy was my roommate when I first got to Baltimore.
Oh, wow.
So when I first got to Baltimore, they made everybody room together in training camp, and Jimmy was my roommate. And Jim and John are almost polar opposite of each other. Jimmy is like really outgoing and kind of crazy, and John is more corporate, right? He's going to give you the corporate answer. He's not going to give you an answer that comes off his sleeves and off his emotions.
Tom, what was the game plan for Rod Woodson that day?
Well, we are trying to get a victory because we hadn't won a game in so long, and we knew that we were saluting Mike Singletary. But, the thing about as an offensive guard, my head is always on a swivel from like outside exterior type of blitzes. Now that you bring up the fact that he had 2 sacks, I wish I would have been able to have a chance to look back, make sure it wasn't over me or because of me. Because if we were sitting here and talking about Rod getting sacks off me, I definitely wouldn't be happy about it.
We had a really good defense, a solid defense that we brought a lot of different pressures. I mean, Dick LeBeau and Dom Capers, those guys did a tremendous job of getting weekly game plans that just allowed us to be athletes out there on the field.
Rod, I wish we had more time to spend with you on your entire career because it was by every definition legendary. And what I appreciate is you stayed in the game. You were great on NFL Network. You were great doing your media work. I know you coached quite a bit too. And I'm very happy that you're back in a booth doing something with football. And then I'll give you the opportunity. What is Hope Through Football?
Hope Through Football is my foundation. So we just do camps around, obviously in my hometown, we've been doing that forever. And then we've been doing some international camps, and all the camps are free. So we don't charge. We get sponsors to bring in the camps. All the camps that we go to are ran by ex-NFL players or coaches, a lot of my old friends, and we go there and we kind of put on a 2-day camp and allow them to learn football a little bit and have some fun with it.
Very good. Appreciate you giving back to the game. It's important. And you grew up in Fort Wayne. Did you happen to be a Bears fan? I don't know.
I was a Bears fan. I mean, I was a fan of football. I mean, back then when I grew up, we only had 3 channels. So, it's not like we have, you got 300 and 500 channels nowadays on satellite. No, we had 3 channels. And, the Bears were a pretty decent team. So was the Raiders. So I was a Raider fan because I played for the Power Raiders. But any football fan, I love to go to Chicago. I love to get Garrett's popcorn. Matter of fact, we still get Garrett popcorn. We get Garrett popcorn every fall here at the house. We get it shipped out, and then I send it to all my buddies, and everybody loves the mix, the caramel and the cheese. That's like the popular one. Being from the Midwest, loving football, growing up watching it, week in and week out. My dad used to watch it with us, but growing up to playing in the Midwest, I mean, I like all the Midwest teams because they have that blue collar mentality, and that's the way I played football. I put on a hard hat. I didn't talk about it. We were just trying to be about it.
Well, it was something to see. That's for sure. Yep. You gave us a lot of memories. We'll see you on Sunday. Thank you.
All right. I'll see you on Sunday.
Appreciate your time. I thought you would get a kick out of that game, December 13th, 1992, in Singletary's final home game. And your response to the 2 sacks was very funny.
Well, I would have to go back and look at the film, and hopefully a blitzing defensive back did not get a sack off me. But I'm reminded of that game because it was a salute to Mike Singletary. We weren't having a great year. We all knew that he was going to retire, and that was going to be his final game. And Pittsburgh had a good record at that time, and we went out and we dedicated ourselves to Mike Singletary and went out and beat the Pittsburgh Steelers on that day. So it was super rewarding.
First of all, that 1995 ACL for that Super Bowl, he injured it in the early season, and he's the only player ever to come back and play in that same calendar year or same season calendar year to play in the Super Bowl. He played 12 snaps, but that's never been done before or since.
I'm confused by it. Why would you play 12 snaps? Were you only good enough to play 12 snaps, or were you leery of what was happening to the accomplishment of it is incredible. I don't know if it'll ever happen again with the modern NFL and even the medical technology and the advances they made and the collective bargaining agreement. You take all that into account, it just shows you that desire that Rod Woodson had to wanting to get back on the field to be a contributor in the biggest game in year in and year out.
Super Bowl 30, 10 years after you guys won the Super Bowl. One day I'd like to sit down with you. We're going to do this for a podcast. I just thought of this. I want to know every Hall of Fame player you were on the field with in your career. We're going to do that.
Man, just the guys from my own team.
I know, but we're going to do it. We're going to do it, and then we're going to rank like the top 10. I just think that would be kind of a cool thing. That would be kind of a cool.
You think of Randy White, you think of Howie Long, you think of the guys I played with myself.
LT, Lawrence Taylor.
Rod Woodson.
Reggie White. Oh, yeah. It's a crazy number. It'd be a crazy number. There's so many, we probably haven't even thought about it. Every sip of Blue Moon's Belgian-style wheat ale, crafted with Valencia orange peel and coriander, is a winning drive for your taste buds. Blue Moon, made brighter, and a proud partner of the Chicago Bears. All right, we dip into the injury report here. This is early in the week, so it'll change, but a couple that we got to bring up. One of them is Tyreek Stevenson with a shoulder, and then also Cole Kmet with a back injury. I don't know what the severity is of these. We're not going to know, obviously, until game time if this is going to be an issue or not. But how do you look at these, especially the types of injuries that we're dealing with here? A shoulder for Tyreek and a back for Cole Kmet.
Well, the only is DNP. That stands for did not practice. So I'm a little bit leery of what their evaluability is. You don't want to hurt a player at this stage of the season and jeopardize them for the long haul. I never, even going back and look at it, I never saw the moment Cole got hurt.
Yeah.
And so I don't understand that. And then we were alerted to Tyreek Stevenson more than saw him leave the field in any type of pain. Those guys are both tremendously tough guys, but sometimes you have to have the sensibility of the training staff to help make the decision for them. I don't want them to jeopardize themselves, and we'll get an injury report every day. This just happens to be the first one of the week.
All right. How do you feel about a cashier? How do you tell a cashier you're a Bears fan without telling them you're a Bears fan? With the Chicago Bears PNC Bank Visa debit card, which gets you exclusive discounts on Bears merchandise. Find out more at pnc.com/BearsCard. From a Ravens perspective, they're getting healthier out of the bye week. It looks very much like Roquan Smith, Ronnie Stanley, the starting left tackle, and a couple-time Pro Bowler Lamar. They will be able to get back on the field all limited. And I'm really most intrigued about how they're going to deploy Kyle Hamilton, because he's a problem, is the exact quote from Ben Johnson, because moving him around, he's just a unique player, and he is a chess piece, and you got to account for him.
Well, he's big enough to cover a tight end man-to-man. He's big enough to play at a second-level linebacker type landmark. He's good enough to cover on the outside. He's got great angle anticipation if he is playing a deep safety position and they get a player in the open for the Bears. So, listen, he was a high draft choice. He's been super successful since the moment he walked into the NFL, and it's not like you're not aware of him. And that's one of the great things Ben Johnson does. He takes the other team's personnel into account, and he game plans accordingly.
I got to ask you this, because you guys experienced something similar later on in your time well after the Super Bowl, but you guys were still winning games. But then when you weren't, there was just still this aura. You're playing the Bears. You're going to be dealing with a very physical opponent. They're going to be chirping. They're going to have that swagger. I think of the same thing with the Baltimore Ravens. They've got a reputation of being a physical team. They can run the ball. They've got Lamar. They've got still some healthy quality players, Pro Bowlers, a lot of them on that team, both sides of the ball. Do you sometimes, as a player, prepare for the aura of the team as much as the team? Because you know at any time they could find that mojo enough to beat you.
It's a great point you're bringing up. And two, the aura of the football team begins with the requirements of the head coach. And there's a lot of similarities between John Harbaugh and Mike Ditka. They're both a physical brand style of coaching. They require you to go out and practice at a real high level so you're prepared once the game kicks off. And then we've seen the success from the Baltimore Ravens over John Harbaugh's time, and the Bears had a lot of success during Mike Ditka's time. But I think both of these head coaches are very similar in the way they lead their team into the Sundays, Mondays, and Thursdays.
All right, Tom, I think you're going to like some of the – I'm not going to do it now, but it's going to be in my Joniak's journal on Sunday in Baltimore when I might talk about the running game. There's a lot of good things I discovered about the running game that you're going to like, which tells me, again, these are breadcrumbs to believe that the running game is what Ben Johnson really builds his offense on, foundationally. That's my opinion right now, and you're smarter than me about football, so you tell me. But there's a lot of good things going on in the run game, and it's not just first down, it's red zone. It's starting to really percolate a little bit, and I think it's going to lift all boats. That's my belief. I don't know how you feel about it, but there's some math that says so, and I really hope that this is the start of something big.
So we have a combined over 50 years involvement just in the broadcasting side of the NFL. And the only two guys that come to mind that don't have a running game as a foundation is Air Coryell and Mouse Davis.
Interesting.
So I'm thinking of a running, two passing football teams that their running game wasn't the foundation. It was throwing the ball was their foundation, and then they would every once in a while run the ball. And I think of any successful football team in the history of the league, and we could rattle off Super Bowl teams right now, and you talk about how well they run the ball, whether you want to go to the old-time Dallas or the Pittsburgh Steelers or the Chicago Bears or the Baltimore Ravens, blah, blah, all these successful teams, man, it is about the running game. And that's a way that you build a program, is have that initial awareness of what do we have to do in order to be successful against our opponent's offense.
When Ben Johnson was at the podium on Wednesday, I was thinking of you. He goes, I put on that sideline view. Now, I know you like to watch the end zone view to see the running game, as do I. That's where you see every little piece of it. But he wanted to see where those hats were at the line of scrimmage, both sides of the ball, really. That's a visual that any fan can see, and you can feel a game when you see the opponent. If you're the defense and you're just getting run over, you are falling back. They are knocking you back, and it's expressing and imposing your will on the opponent. And you mentioned it on our last podcast, I think it was. Drew Dahlman, he looked very good. He was looking very good and comfortable in that. As Ben said, he's got a lot on his plate. But I feel like Darnell Wright feels to me and looks to me, even with his bad elbow still, like a different player in the last couple weeks. One with confidence, and maybe getting him out on the edge like that has given him a bit of a boost to go out there, road grade some people, get back, and then get the dirty yards when you don't have to go on the out. You know what I'm saying? Playing those gap schemes.
So, you think of the opposite side of the ball. You can look at the defensive side of the ball as well as the offensive side of the ball. You want to see the blue helmets of the Chicago Bears push the opponent across wherever the line of scrimmage is. On the defensive side of the ball, Shamar Turner is doing a really good job of not giving up any ground. He initiates contact, and then he creates separation. And there's times where he is holding the offensive player at bay, working laterally down the line of scrimmage, disengaging and making the play. So it goes both ways there. And I've been encouraged by Shamar Turner and what he's been able to do in the minimal amount of time that he's been on the field. And I think he's really has a bright future. And if it stays at defensive end, fine, but I think he's got the ability to work inside as well.
Hey, Bears fans, Steinhoffels is a proud partner of the Chicago Bears. This Bears season, Steinhoffels is partnering with Special Spaces Illinois to create dream bedrooms for children battling cancer. For every false start caused by the Bears defense during a home game, Steinhoffels will donate $1,000 to Special Spaces Illinois. Shop in store and online at steinhoffels.com. Great cause there. Thank you, Steinhoffels. All right, I want to talk about Caleb, because I know over the years we used to do in our pregame, you'd have Tom's keys to the game brought to you by blah, 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 and you'd give the keys to the game. And he always came up with if. And sometimes with the quarterback using his legs, and if the quarterback picks up 5 first downs, the Bears are going to win the game. So this became a topic at the podium on a Wednesday. Caleb, 6 of his 9 rushing first downs came in the first 2 weeks of the season, the 2 losses against Minnesota and Detroit, so early in the season. In 24, he had 36 first downs rushing, at least one in all but 2 games. And he had 27 first downs rushing last year. And I know I came out and said, if he gets to 50 this year, I would look at that as, okay, this is another 200 plays. You're getting a first down because of his legs. You're getting another couple hundred plays of offense. And he had 21 10-plus yard runs. How do you feel about this? Because I know he can hurt a team with his legs. And maybe there were opportunities to do that last week, and maybe there were not. But I think he'd be even that more dangerous with just a few more a game. How do you feel about that?
I think the less he runs, the better he's getting to know the system. Because the less he runs and some scrambling time he can find behind the line of scrimmage, and he understands where his 1, 2, 3 options are. And that's what he's trying to locate. However, if you get into a situation where you know that you can pick up those 7 to 10 important yards, if you can guarantee to pick up a first down and either get to the ground with a slide harmlessly or get out of bounds without taking a hit, I'm all for that. I don't want to say, okay, if I get back to my final drop step and what I'm looking for is not there, then I'm going to run. I don't want to see that either. I want to see Caleb develop the understanding, the knowledge of this offense and how it works in the architect of every single play. So if he doesn't run, that kind of shows me he's learning the offense better and he's trying to locate a better option downfield.
If he gets a lot of man coverage and they got the back to him, would you take off a little bit?
Run.
Yeah.
Run, buddy, run. But I mean, he's got the type of running ability
right.